You know, I was just came up to me that it's worth noting that we are manifest beings. And as much as our human history has been about realizing, you could say consciousness outside of our being nature, the fact is that we are bodies and we are interconnected and related beings in creation. So when we look at it that way, it's interesting to note what that feels like. And one of the most crucial pieces, both for awakening and particularly for integrating an awakening, has been this voicing of a condition or a feeling of a core wound that Samuel Bonder first referred to. Core wound, meaning not that we're wounded, but actually that something feels not quite right within us, and that it's beyond our individual life history and hurts. It's something more foundational than that. And as we investigate that, we find beyond our personal issues is a sense of discomfort that's been propelling our evolution, our growing, our meditating, our finding love, and so on. It's been driven, perhaps, from this core discomfort. And when people have an interest in coming into this work, it seems to be a shift from going out and away from human discomfort into being present with it and meeting it and discovering what it's like to be ourselves. And in that process, we find at the foundation of our nature the coexistence of infinite and finite. And they're not meldable or mergeable. And it's confusing because there's a perfection and never changing, and there's an there's a finite quality of aging and changing. And so when we investigate that, and particularly over time, as the refinement in my second life, whole being realization, has occurred, the discovery of a dynamic at the ground that was never a wound. It was actually a dynamic in which consciousness, beingness, and non-separate interconnectedness, or the relatedness field, were coexisting but not melding as the creation point or origin point of life and our life. So we are consciousness, we are matter, we are relatedness. And that relatedness field, from my discoveries, is love. So we are all what I've found comforting not as a release of a wound, but actually a sitting in that ground of us, is a fire of our being, a fire of consciousness, being, love. When we find that and know ourselves as that, then what is there not to trust? Trust isn't even a question, because we are being life. It's emerging as us, it's emerging as everything. So trust can't be believed in and be foundational. It has to be discovered and lived to be true constantly and increasingly. So when we know that, then we're living in the field of the manifest life that has its origin as consciousness, beingness, love. And so we're able then to feel the discomfort and surrender increasingly to being that original fire that is the source of trust. And it turns out it's also the source of freedom and also the source of love. And it is our nature. So in that way, we begin to find that we are being. And so is everything else. There isn't a boundary to being me. And so we begin to find that life is not just serving us within, but it's serving us without. And that's pretty exciting, because then I find even the things I don't like that come along, I automatically can't not know they're there serving me, prodding my evolution, allowing me to lean into a further humbling of my nature in the realization of my limits and my wholeness. And on it goes from this fundamental ground of our source as the field of trust, as the field of beingness, as the field of consciousness, and particularly as the field of love. It's like life is loving us when we're sitting in that realization. And it's beautiful to begin to notice that. And how do we do that? Well, we do it through the processes that we're all engaged in this whole being realization process that we've been working through in the Trillium Awakening work. And particularly by meeting the self over and over again to find that ground that is actually infinite and whole and all and love.
Mm. Amen, huh? Wow, Rod, thank you so much. Yeah, I love that. What is there not to trust? And, you know, I may or may not trust my partner to remember to turn the stove off after they've cooked, but we're talking on a completely different level here, and just the wellspring that you point to, the wellspring of being, that this is all for us in service. This invokes just this delight and possibility and play and creativity, you know. So yeah, thank you so much, Rod. Look forward to hearing all of this again.